Hello and good day. My name is Brendan McNally, and I am the Program Director of the IE Brown Executive MBA program on the Brown side of this partnership. I'll get into some more details about how Brown and IE got together, but I'd like to welcome you all to this session today where I'd love to give you the pro tips, the inside scoop on how to submit a successful application to this program. I've been with Brown for over 20 years in a variety of roles, and then for the last six, I've been with the IE Brown EMBA program and have just loved it. I started my career many decades ago in undergraduate admission, so it's really kind of a fun full circle for me now to be so involved in working with our current students, but also involved in the admissions process. So hopefully my insights today will be very helpful to you in terms of understanding what we're looking for and what tips might be helpful to you as you put together an application. So, what I'd like to do first, and I do this for many events, is really go through the program and its structure. What we have found is that executive MBA programs are very different who are out there. They will all have a core components of business curricula, but there are many different elements in terms of the way that they're structured. So I'd like to give you a good understanding of how IE Brown does it so that as you consider us and other programs, you have a good feel for what makes us unique and what questions to ask of others. Then I'll spend a good chunk of time today in terms of what I have seen, our team has seen, is really helpful tips in terms of submitting a great application, and then we'll have some time for Q&A. So this program, it's an executive MBA, and it's a category of master's in business administration programs. And the executive element of it is we're really targeting towards mid-career professionals, many of whom are in leadership and management roles at this time, and have aspirations to continue to grow and to advance in their careers, usually to senior leadership positions. So, by definition, most of the executive MBA programs and ours included are usually looking for students who have about 10 years worth of professional experience, usually after an undergraduate degree. It's a flexible format. This is a blended type program where we have residential sessions at IE University in Madrid, at Brown University in Providence, Rhode Island, and an immersion week in Cape Town, South Africa. And we mix in-person residential sessions with online learning, knowing that all of our students are working full-time in their daily jobs and can work in this program into their schedules. In the bottom left, what's unique about this program is, of course, you're going to get business classes, curriculum, tool making, tools, analytical approaches to solving business challenges. But what we do, and we think we do well and we do differently, is we add a significant amount of coursework from the social sciences and some humanities, and then applied opportunities to help you kind of really be a thoughtful, forward-thinking leader. Our program is 15 months long, so we're going to be probably on the shorter end of pretty much any MBA or executive MBA that's out there. And the good news is that for people, this ends up being a great way of getting through relatively quickly. The challenge is that we're compressing into a relatively short period of time, often the same amount of courses that you do. But as I mentioned, we'll have 5 face-to-face sessions, so you get time on campus at Brown University, as well as IE Business School, and a week in Cape Town. I'd love to point this one out. It's really kind of a fun one. On the right panel of the screen is the actual diploma that you get. We start the program in Madrid at IE, and then we conclude the program at Brown after 15 months. And we participate in Brown's graduation ceremonies. And this diploma is the Brown diploma. However, it is stamped by, conferred by both IE and Brown, and it's in Latin. And we provide on the registrar's website a translation. So this is one of the few programs that's out there in the EMBA category where it's a true partnership between two universities. In our case, IE Business School, based in Madrid, is one of the world's top-ranked business schools. IE has been at the forefront of business education, and in particular, have been outstanding in their delivery of online content. Long before we all had to push ourselves onto Zoom during the pandemic, IE was leading the way with faculty and students and technology, both software and hardware, of doing an excellent job delivering education in real time, synchronous, online. Knowing ways of how to present the material, how to engage students, how to use breakout rooms, how to use whiteboards. This was something that when Brown was looking for a partner, and IE looking at us, that we really felt was something that could take this program to the next level, was the ability of delivering excellent content online. Brown University is based in Providence, Rhode Island. We were founded in 1764. We are a member of the Ivy League. Probably most important, we're really known for a liberal arts tradition of learning to read, write, and think from various disciplines. So, as I mentioned in the prior slide, what we do well is bring in social sciences, humanities, different approaches for you to be thinking about business and organizational issues. So this combination between two well-known, well-equipped universities really delivers, I think, a unique and an exceptional business education. And for us, it was strategic. We wanted to have an international partner. We wanted to have a business school provide the curriculum related to the primary business courses. Brown does not have a business school. And IE was looking for internationally recognized partner, but based in the United States. But that was at the forefront of a lot of social science thinking and problem solving and research. So, what we do during these 15 months, there's 26 credit-bearing courses that we'll provide to you with varying lengths. Many of the core business classes are going to be longer, and then we have a number of classes that will be shorter, but often ones that really add to the unique elements that I've been mentioning. We break up the curriculum into 4 terms, which you don't need to kind of worry about. But the bottom line is that you're usually doing 6 to 8 courses at any given time. So to do well in this program, you have to really be able to be organized and juggle a lot of material. But what we find is that our students and our alumni talk about how stimulating it is to be integrating material from many courses together, both from an academic standpoint, but then applying the stuff at work. It is a program where it is a true partnership. We split the courses and the faculty between IE and Brown. This will not feel, when you're at Brown, you will not be only having Brown classes. We do have IE faculty who come and teach here in Providence. Similarly, where we have residential sessions in Madrid, we have a Brown faculty who will go over there. So while you get the feel and the welcome at both institutions, it will be feeling that you are a student enrolled at both institutions with all the kind of rights and privileges that any other master student would have at IE or at Brown. We deliver the course material through a mix of synchronous, so in-person lectures, as well as online lectures, which are synchronous. Tons of discussions, teamwork, team projects, opportunities for personal and professional reflections, a lot of writing and presentations. We do have some asynchronous activity in the program. Usually, those are designated towards online forums where faculty will open up a prompt at the beginning of a week, and then you have multiple opportunities during the week to weigh in at your convenience. But this is a program where there is a premium on interaction between you and your classmates and the faculty. So this is not a program where most of the material is asynchronous, where you're watching recorded lectures. There's some preparatory recorded material, but most of it is where you're really actively engaged with faculty and your classmates. Pretty much every course in the program will have an element that is delivered in person during one of the residential sessions and then also online. And then we have a cohort size, usually about 40 to 50 students from all over the globe. We have a majority of people who are U.S. residents, but many of those residents are born and educated outside the U.S. So they bring some very, very valuable, important perspectives to the classroom, to their classmates. So we break the curriculum up into three major categories. We have a group of classes that look at the workplace and think about how you can be a better leader, both from an organizational sense as well as from you as an individual, what you may need to develop and to work on. Of course, business acumen. This is an executive master's in business administration. So there are many courses that are delivered that really strengthen your understanding of critical business functions and areas, as well as thinking about really important topics that are just essential to us today, including AI and many other topics. And then probably as most important for you is that while classes that you'll take will have a lot of direct applicable material that you can often bring straight to your workplace while you're in the program, what we feel we do really well in this program is provide you with frameworks, with research, with faculty insights and perspective as to how to think about things in the future. Where are they headed? How might we deal with them? How might we ask the right questions to find out whether this might be a great opportunity or what challenges might exist if our business were to do something different, better, in a different place. So the strategic foresight category. I won't go into too much detail on any one of these classes, but within these three categories that I had mentioned, here's a listing of the classes. In the strategic foresight, we talk about globalization, global economics. We think about game theory, risk, and strategy as you as a manager, kind of around sort of behavioral economics. There's a variety of these classes here that give you this kind of big, broad foresight thinking. Where are things coming? Sometimes that is done through classes that look at where have we come from. So a very unique class that's a part of this curriculum and has been since the very beginning is a class on the shared history of slavery and capitalism. It's taught by a history professor at Brown, and you find that there's many, many global implications around the capitalistic and economic systems and how financial institutions, practices have existed and continue to exist across the globe that involved enslaved labor and what those implications are. For each one of these three buckets, what I've done here is down at the bottom, I talk about faculty discipline. So I just a plug for us in terms of how we do things in this program is you don't get just pure business professors who are in any of the classes that we do. They come from many different disciplines. And our hope is that this is an excellent way to prepare you well for the world by bringing in people who come from various areas in academia as well as in the business world, where their expertise isn't just purely business. Business acumen, again, the core of we're an executive master's in business administration, so you should expect and you will get delivered excellent content in economics, financial accounting, marketing, cost control, entrepreneurship, financial management. You will come away with an excellent understanding of how leaders, managers, and various functions within organizations understand what's important, how they measure progress, what key performance indicators, KPIs you might have. So we go into some depth, and there is some analytical, quantitative work that's done in many of these classes. But primarily, it's geared towards you understanding what goes on in these areas. So a more generalist approach to these areas rather than a day-to-day practitioner. And what we find is that for mid-career professionals, this is an excellent way for you to understand if you're not in one of these functional areas or for those areas that you're not in. This is an opportunity for you to understand the language, the frameworks that your colleagues might be employing. And then the workplace impact and leadership. So a grouping of classes where we give you an excellent understanding of groups of people, how we act, what values, what norms, what cultures, which understandings of models of leadership, both in terms of how you can affect an organization and how you can be more effective yourself. There's also lots of opportunities in a program like this to do for you to get your hands-on experiences. We have a capstone project. It usually begins halfway through the program and culminates in the last residential session. We call it the Key Reflection Project. And students do in the IE Brown program usually work in teams of 2 or 3 people, and it's a topic that you get to choose, and then we'll pair you with an advisor, a faculty advisor, and guide you through the process through basically the 7 or 8 months where you're working on the KRP. We structure it well so that you're provided with support along the way. And in many instances, it's a great opportunity for people to take a topic related to their work or something they're passionate about and really try to advance it through some very rigorous research, market validation approaches. We have a great class in entrepreneurial management for executives. So while we do have people who are entrepreneurs in the program, many are coming from more corporate environments, business environments where they've heard of entrepreneurship, they may have dabbled, and this class really provides a lot of the structure and frameworks for understanding early stage ventures. And in this course, taught by a successful entrepreneur from IE, you get your hands dirty and you do a startup. So we've really seen some fun projects come out of this. The learning and the understanding is excellent. And then through our Cape Town experience in South Africa, we have a class that looks at entrepreneurial opportunities in developing regions. So there'll be a project aspect to this as well, where you get an opportunity not just to hear lectures and experts, but to get yourself deep into doing analysis of a business vertical or a business segment within South Africa. Okay, the format of the program, really important. Each one of these columns designates one of the residential periods, and in between them, there's usually 2 to 3 months of online synchronous classes or asynchronous forums. So we start this program usually in very, very early March. For March of 2026, I believe it will be actually March 1st or 2nd, where our classes will begin. And we spend 2 weeks at IE in Madrid. We then go online for a couple of months, and then we come to Brown University for 2 weeks in June of 2026. We go back online to Madrid online, and then we go to Cape Town usually just after New Year's. It's usually the second week of January where we go to South Africa for a week. We finally have a fourth online period and then finish with a residential session, which is a little more than a week at Brown, and then graduation. So it's a 15 months. As I had mentioned before, for many people, this is a great opportunity to get through this type of curriculum in a relatively short period of time, but we really kind of cram in a lot of activity, particularly during these residential sessions where we'll work you from 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning to 6 or 7 o'clock at night, taking classes, working with classmates, interacting with faculty, networking, getting to take advantage of both of these world-class universities. So the Cape Town immersion experience an opportunity for us to go to, for many people, a very different environment. And in particular, looking at how business is done in a different country. So we'll be working with in January of 2027 of exposing students in this program to different industries and business sectors within the South African economy to get you to understand what's unique about it. And we will bring in our approach to bringing social sciences, history, economics, many of the tools that we provide you in other courses as to how to do a very thorough, deep, and a thoughtful understanding of a country or a region and how that might differ from other places. So you'll have history, you'll have economics. In the case of South Africa, understanding its unique history with race, with the apartheid regime, and then what changed and what opportunities have come about and what challenges South Africans face. We find for many people that while it's exciting and really cool to be at both IE in Madrid and Brown University in Providence, this is opportunity to be in yet another continent on the African continent and in South Africa to study, to learn, to see how business takes place in a different environment really enriches your professional and your personal life. Real quick, we think it's a global exposure by getting you to yet a different continent, that you move a lot of this understanding from just theory to understanding how people actually do it. And for many people, it's exposing you to a different world than what you've come from. Not everyone. So understanding bias, power relationships, different from many in terms of primary Western economies, of understanding what it's like to be doing business in an evolving, an emerging, and but challenging business environment. Okay, I'm going to blow through these real quick, but these obviously are really important. I've done some recorded lectures if anyone wants. Bryce and I would be happy to send you along. I've done a whole webinar on the return on investment. We've just found that our alumni are incredibly loyal to us and talk so highly about the program because it has helped them in their professional and their personal lives, that they have seen almost 6 out of 10 soon after graduation increases in their pay, equating to some significant dollar amounts, raises, and opportunities that they wouldn't normally have had if they didn't do a program like this. Also important, 9 out of 10, over 9 out of 10 are really satisfied with the skills that they learn and that they're using them on a daily basis. Again, what we feel in a return on investment is going to be bringing you to different parts of the world, exposing you to different people. This happens both physical as well as the classmates that you have who hail from around the globe, as well as the faculty. We're accredited by the Big Three, which is a big deal for us. So you can rest assured that this is going to be one of the top programs that's going to be known throughout the world. And then we've just got a whole host of rankings that show that we can back up what we say about how excellent the program is. These QS ratings have been coming out yearly that have, I think, really capture a lot of our strengths. But if you look at those numbers, like the diversity of students, how people are doing in their career outcomes, and the profiles of people in the program, we're in the very, very top categories in the world. Brown on its own tends to be one of the top universities. Again, we're part of the Ivy League, which means nothing other than a top research institution that cares about teaching, writing, thinking from different disciplines. And then, as I mentioned, IE has perennial been on top of the rankings for business programs, their business school, and their faculty. You have a global network that comes out of this program. the number of alumni from both universities. You're close, you're over 200,000 living alumni from both IE and Brown, with clubs and opportunities to interact with people throughout the globe. And what we find is that our students, depending upon what the audience is, just pull out whichever university is better known, depending upon their audience. If some you're with that knows Brown better, then you say, "Oh, I went to Brown." Or if it's in a different context, you say, "Oh yeah, I'm an IE graduate, and we partnered with Brown University." So our students do a super job of being able to leverage the best of both universities. Global, as I mentioned, which we think really has a return for your professional work, that often the key reflection projects continue on afterwards and often have global themes to them. We've seen a number of people in terms of starting new ventures. Tim James, who's featured down there on the right, has moved on from a career at State Street Bank in Boston to doing a startup with two of his classmates and has been incredibly impactful in terms of what he's been able to do in his new venture. Okay, this is where you all came to join us to get the pro tips, some helpful things about what to do to submit a successful application. So I'm going to run through for you the what we find, what we're looking for, and then some tips about how you might navigate this. So when I started, the executive MBA program or programs often are looking for people who have a number of years of experience. In our instance here, it's almost always 10 years or more. There are a few instances where we have people who have less, but it's almost always people who have had enough so that they bring to the classroom, to their cohort, learnings that will help everyone through to develop. So it's often we're looking for people who have had some management and leadership experience. Usually, out of those 10, that at least three of them where you're supervising a group of people. And again, there are some exceptions to it. There are some people who will work as experts, domain experts, or as individuals. But generally, the profile for an executive MBA, and ours in particular, is looking for people who have managed large groups of teams, or at least teams where there's enough people where it's your responsibility to guide, to teach, to evaluate those with whom you work. We look for academic achievement. I've become quite good at evaluating transcripts from all over the globe. It's actually one of the fun parts of my my job is to see a transcript from the country of Colombia to Madagascar to the US to Europe, wherever it might be. We'll look, and we want to see at least a 3PA, a 3.0 GPA, B average. Obviously, the stronger the performance, the better. We are a rigorous academic program. We're going to put you through your paces in terms of reading, writing, and thinking, so that academic preparation tends to be really important. The longer you're out of school, the less critical the strong grades will be for people. So there are instances where people have less than that we accept, but generally speaking, we're looking for an understanding of that you can perform well in this program. We also look for people who have international experience. Often it's through their jobs, but it could be through personal travel or through their personal experiences. This is a global program, as I've noted before. Your classmates will be coming from around, and we feel part of the value delivered to you is our people who are citizens of the globe. The fit, and this is a really important thing, and we spend a lot of time in the evaluation of the applications, which I'll get to. This is a great program for people who really are lifetime learners, who want to learn and grow. If you're in your job, you're happy where you are, you're not interested in kind of what's new out there, we're not the right fit for you. I think it's also important to see that we do this differently. As I mentioned, primarily through Brown's curriculum and additions in social sciences and some humanities, we're going to be a very different approach to you. If you're looking for a heavy quantitative type of program, we're not going to be the one. We will do a good job with providing you a broad understanding of business and the functions, but we're also going to have you read very important social science literature. We're going to have you really understand a variety of things that will take you out of your comfort zone, which we think will make you a much better manager and leader. We look for people who can balance a lot because you're going to have to do even one more than what you got going on in your life right now, but that you can balance your work, family, and academics. And then diversity is very, very important to us. We find that with a group of people who are very well accomplished in bringing various talents and backgrounds, are just exceptional in terms of helping you through this program understand what it's like to do business. Like there's a student from the country of Georgia from banking in this program. We have a number of people from Central and South America who bring their experiences. We have an operations specialist in the airline industry from New Zealand. We have most of the students come from various different industries, as I mentioned, in the US, but not necessarily grew up in the US. So diversity to us is not just a buzzword. It's really important so that you can learn from others. And just like a quick highlight, two of the people, Aurora, who is here, works for Santander Bank, and a real rising star, comes from a fascinating background here in the Boston area. Will Giordano Perez is a medical doctor, is a Brown graduate from undergraduate as well as public health, and then felt that a master's in business administration would really help him in both his leadership and the business side of medicine. Okay, how do we look at you in this process? I think first off, it's really important to know that we are holistic. There is not one aspect of your application that we usually say this will make or break you where you have it, but rather we want to have a good understanding of your whole accomplishments to date as a student, as a professional, and as a person. So I read the whole application before making any decisions. What's very important when we're evaluating is understanding the whole context of who you are and where you've come from. And again, so if diversity is important to us, understanding what you've done in life to date really helps us. So understanding your personal background, where you grew up, what your family dynamics were. There's opportunities within the application that help us understand who you are. We are looking to understand what your professional and your personal goals are. This is a resource intensive, and rich environment. And we want to make sure that the match is there for what we can provide you and what you will provide to the program. So, what is it that you're looking to do and to grow? So, there'll be plenty of opportunities in the application for us to understand why is an executive MBA the right thing for you? What will it help you do? And in particular, thinking about why IE Brown might be the great place. And then, of course, and it's not because we're snobby or because we're elitist, but really it's the promise that we want to give that we can deliver on to classmates is so that when we're evaluating candidates, we're always having an eye on what would you as an individual add or contribute to the cohort. And much of it's going to be what your professional background is, but there's many more aspects of who you are that really enrich this program to help forge bonds for people that last lifetimes. So, tips for completing the application. It is done if you go to the IE Brown EMBA website. You can go to the page that has apply, and it will connect you through. We have to choose for this program platforms that are either at Brown or at IE. The application platform and financial aid is done through IE. So what you want to do is if you haven't started an application, when you go in, make sure that you choose IE Brown Executive MBA program as the program that you're applying for. IE has a number of excellent MBA and EMBA options, and IE Brown is one of them. So make sure you click the right one. The intake for the program will be March 26th, and there's a color coding on the platform that once you've completed a section properly, you get green, and it'll allow you to kind of to move forward. So green is good. In the section that allows you, there's biographic information that we want you to fill out. Under some of the personal information, it's helpful for us to know your citizenship. We have people from around the globe. We support students with visas and the visa process. So even at the very early stages, it helps us if you have multiple citizenships to know. There'll be boxes there that you can fill out that allow us to know which country, what your passport number is, and also designate, if you can, which one is your primary one. I just evaluated someone last night who has three different passports, and it was really helpful to know which one the individual sees as the primary one. We're going to ask you about your education. So you're going to be able to put in usually chronological to fill in what university that you attended, what the area of study, location, things along those lines. You'll find at the bottom for each one of the educational experiences that you can put in, there's a box that has a free form and allows you to put in text. It's limited to 2,000 characters, but it should be enough there that it's really helpful. So this is one of these pro tips, is if you could describe things that about what you got out of your undergraduate or graduate experiences here, areas of concentration or study, particularly meaningful areas that were highlights for you that were in there. Sometimes there might be some context if things didn't go well that you might be able to give us some helpful understanding of why your grades may not have been what you expected and all. But please use this opportunity in the box to provide us with more context about what you got out of your undergraduate or your graduate experiences. All right. Then there's going to be a section that allows you to put information in about your professional experience. Much of this is repetitive to your CV or your resume, but it is helpful information for us in terms of tracking information. So what we're looking for and what we want to make sure is that we have all your different professional experiences. And usually a good tip would be is just having everything since college graduation, undergraduate, that you can put in there. And if you can fill this out chronological, that's great. Don't worry about it if it doesn't come out that way. One important thing that I had mentioned earlier is in terms of the how we evaluate and what the fit is there is a box that talks about the number of people you supervise. So if you can put it in here, it's very helpful to get a sense of what your responsibilities are. We know that people come from around the globe. There's a box in there for each one of the experiences that you have that has a salary range. Ideally, we'd love to see people with career progressions where they're doing better and better in terms of what their incomes are. You can fill this out without putting the information in, but I find that it does not bias me in terms of evaluating a candidate, but rather understanding how they've done within their different jobs and what the advancement has been in their careers. We understand that different countries have different pay scales, different industries have pay scales. So I would encourage you to include it, although it's not required. And then there is an opportunity in each one of the experience boxes that you'll complete that describe your responsibilities and achievements. This one's relatively short, so if you can't get it in here, make sure that it's on your resume. But it's a very nice way as I'm going through the core application things to have some understandings of key goals that have been met, achievements that an individual has made. Okay. We also ask for either some people a CV, a curriculum vitae, or a resume. Those are the same. Usually a page to 2 pages listing an individual's professional experience, including what their educational background is. Please be sure that you list what your accomplishments are, what roles that you had in these accomplishments where possible. Always find, and it's always a best practice for anyone, that quantitative data is put in a resume or a CV. The amount, the sales volume, the number of operational churns that you did, all of those types of things are helpful. We do take functional essay resumes, but if you're listing where you've worked and all, doing those in chronological order with your current most recent one at the top, and then moving down into other areas. We do have, there's a template that IE provides through the application portal. So if you don't have, if you're someone who's from outside sort of the normal business world of, say, the US or Western standards, this template is a very good, helpful way of recording it. You don't need to do both. You only need one resume that's in there. If the IE template helps you get through that, then have at it. You're welcome to it. There's a section towards the back of the application that is more about you. And I find that as I mentioned, we're looking holistically at you. We want to understand where you come from. So, feel free to add as much as you can in these areas. And in essence, if you can't get things that are important that we're asking, if we're kind of teasing you with these questions and you feel like 140 characters isn't helpful, make sure in your essays or something supplemental you send to us so that we can read about this stuff. We have many applicants to the program, but not so many that we don't read everything. I really enjoy seeing the whole person. So, how did you earn your first money? We find that this is really kind of a fun way to understand at what point did people kind of start their business career. For most of us, it wasn't very exciting type of activities, but a true insights into kind of where did you begin. We ask you where else you're applying. And again, this is optional in terms of what you put in. What we find is that the set of considerations for people as they go through this process, there's usually admissions people, recruitment people from both IE and Brown that you can talk to, that we often get down to a group of people who end up completing the application. We have a good understanding who we are. We've probably already kind of given you some sense of to whether you're a good fit for the program, whether you're within the profile, and all. And for us to kind of know what else is under consideration for you is very helpful. We find that there's some great programs that are peer programs to ours, but then we also find that people are considering us and then very, very different options. So in the process for the interview and other things, if you complete this and let us know where else you're applying, it helps us with the fit and making sure that if things go well for us and for you, that we both know we're heading down a mutual path of success for both us and for you. One question that I love that's on here that I would encourage you to put is what did you wish we asked? So you go through this whole process and you're going, wow, I can't believe they didn't ask. So if you can prompt us with this question, and probably more importantly, as I noted before, is make sure you answer the question. I find a lot of people will have like an example of someone saying, you didn't ask about why do I feel an executive MBA is right for me at this time. And I thought, good question. There's great opportunities in the essay options to answer that. But if you choose different prompts, then make sure you send us a supplemental one, or in the interview, or at some point you give us that answer. So please make sure you do that. I love the question, and make sure you find some way to answer it for us. Okay, really important in the process, and every school is going to want this, are letters of recommendation. So who should you ask to get them? In my opinion, and the team who evaluate the applicants for IE Brown is we think you should get someone, usually at least one of the two should be someone who's been your supervisor. We would love to know someone you've worked for and what they feel about the work that you've done, what your potential is. But more important, we want people of the two, both of them, should people who know you and know you well. We've had instances where we've had people who get a very, very senior person in the company to write a letter of recommendation, but they don't know the applicant well. So what we get is a pretty standard kind of generic responses to the questions, and it's not really getting into our ability to find out what's unique about you, what your potential, what your accomplishments are, and also where the growth opportunities may be. So when you're thinking about who, again, hopefully one of the two, maybe both of them will people you worked for. A peer can be very good. And times we've had people whose clients know them very, very well and can assess this, is that you should be looking for people who will obviously give you a positive recommendation, but more importantly, can give us some examples of what it is about you that make you a strong candidate for further education, for what growth needs they feel he or she feels you need, um, why a program like this might be good for you. Those are usually the best letters of recommendations that are personalized, that know you well, and have a sense of why you are doing what you're doing. If you don't, and this might be more common sense to you, but I always have found that it's great, and I tell my students and my kids, make sure you have a discussion with your recommender beforehand, that they understand who you are, that you've shared your resume, that you provide them with the answers so that when they're writing the recommendation, they have a complete understanding of who you are. There's the option for you in the box on the application if you're going to submit these letter of recommendations at a later date, what could be done. There is an opportunity for an uploaded letter of recommendation that's in a Word format or a PDF, and also a standard letter of recommendation written by your recommender can be submitted as a separate document. There's also a form that IE provides that you could choose. It's a lot easier often for recommenders to complete. It has some boxes that ask some really kind of quick qualifying. How have you known the candidate, for how long and in what capacity? And then three boxes that ask for the person. Usually we get the same type of information in both. Either one is acceptable for us. If you use the second option of using the IE form for them, and you send that link to the people you've asked to recommend you, make sure that they receive it. For these are the types of things that might come from IE that go into their spam box and all. So it becomes really critical for you to follow up to make sure that they receive it, so that when you need to have it in, you know that they have it in hand. Okay. Other aspects of the application, and these end up being really important. We have two opportunities for you, we call it to express yourself, two responses. We have a variety of prompts that are out there. I think there are 8 different options that you can choose, all of which we think give plenty of opportunity to hit the areas that I've mentioned before, to have us understand who you are, what you've done, where you're headed, what's important to you, what your values are. There's plenty of opportunity for you in these two options to provide this information. One of them has to be a written document. And it's usually 400 to 600 words, about a page and a half, 11 point with 1.5 inch margins that are in there. These are not huge pieces of work. But we want them to be original. We want them to be in your name. We do understand that for many people applying to this program, English is not a first language. The whole program is in English. You will need to read, write, communicate in English. but we worry more about the quality and the depth of what you're writing than grammatical issues, word choices that might be unique to your native tongue but might not be English. We find that that's actually something that gives us a lot of uniqueness in this program is how people express themselves. This is an academic program, so citations, footnotes. If you're going to quote something from the World Bank, use a footnote. We want work. We want to understand what's original thought to you, but we also want to know if you're citing facts, if you've gathered information from outside, that you do the right job, the proper job of providing a footnote or a citation. Now, when one of the responses could be of the two, could be a mixed media. We've seen people do presentations, we've seen people do videos, and all. And again, it's in response to one of the multiple prompts that you have an option. Try to keep it relatively brief. 3 to 5 minutes usually is a plenty of time for you to get across what it is that you might be wanting to do. 2 essays are great. One essay and one other form can be really helpful. But again, it's making sure that you're conveying to us something that is important to you, unique about you, that will help us understand a holistic understanding of your application. In these, we're looking for your writing ability, of course, in one of the essays or both, how you critically you think and approach things, what goals and values you have, what's important to you, and then also how an executive MBA and one from IE Brown would help you. And we're not looking for you to kiss up to us, to give us platitudes, but really what's important to you in your professional career. A lot of these essays provide that opportunity for you to tell us. Most importantly, or importantly, what we're not looking for, we don't want essays that are written by AI. We become pretty good at detecting which ones are and which ones aren't. Probably more important for you is we want you to know that we're looking at you. And if we're getting material that you're putting forth from an AI generated prompt, and it's not really your thought and that your analysis, while sometimes they get biased, you can't get through this program by using AI tools. We will teach you a lot about AI and how to use them and where they are, but not for the original thought that you're doing. So we're really hoping that we want your original thought. The other thing too is just like in the essay is we've had a lot of sort of more generic looks at things. So kind of look at that personal approach. Ask a loved one, a colleague to read your essay and say, does this reveal something unique and more importantly, something about who I am, rather than sort of just a generic analysis of an issue. Okay. Other documents. There are other opportunities on the application for you you can submit an additional document. There's a box to put in there. So if you feel like there are questions or things that we really should be knowing about you that we didn't get to, please feel free to submit it in there. Just give a heading on it, put your name on it, so that we can make sure it gets associated with your application. But this is often a great opportunity for people to kind of understand either mitigating circumstances, special opportunities, or accomplishments can get put in here. We do ask about your current employment. An organizational chart is often very helpful for us to understand. Many people come from big corporations, and exactly where you fit within that organization is very important for us to understand you and your experiences. We don't have to have names on there. Every now and then we have issues around confidentiality. So if there's ways for you to anonymize that stuff, that's what we would like you to do. And we'd like to get a sense of where you are. So we find some people do one page that will say, here's the very top management. And then the next page would say, and here's how I fit. You could be in top management, or you could be in the next layers down, and it helps us to understand. We do ask, this is a program for working professionals, so we want to know that you are working and that we have confirmation of your employment. Usually, human resource departments do these pretty standard types of things to say, I'm applying to a graduate program. Can you provide me a letter of employment verification? Both the org chart and the others, you can move through your application without having these completed and all, but they will be needed for us to do a complete review of your application at the end. Okay, we do look for diplomas, copies of diplomas, usually a photograph often. A lot of times it's people who have them in the frames, and transcripts from both your undergraduate and your graduate work. Once you get through all of this information and you're getting green boxes, you're in good shape. And again, you can check a box to say will be submitted later. What's important is that you get through as much of this as you can. If you still have outstanding documents to us, click the correct boxes and then hit submit. This will allow those of you who are going to apply for financial aid to move forward right away. So for many of you considering the March start and March 26th, still plenty of time for you to get an application into us. More importantly, let us get through the evaluation so that if there's good news where there's an acceptance, you can move through the financial aid process pretty quickly and get your life in order so that we can get started in March. There are options within the financial aid application to choose up to 3 scholarships. Most important will be the essay that's in there. It's not very long as to why you feel this is most appropriate for you. This is not an involved process in terms of financial aid compared to the federal program in the US. Most people move through this more quickly. And then what's really important, and we will be providing reminders for those of you who start applications, if you have documents that you weren't able to submit when you put through your application, like transcripts, letters of recommendations, employee verification, make sure you get to those. We usually wait until those are all in before we schedule interviews. Okay, driving to the very end, and I'm leaving some room for some questions. Hope I've impressed upon you both in terms of the overview of the program, but as well as what we're looking for is this is a fantastic program for people who want to advance their professional careers, but are looking to lead differently. It's a different approach to a business education. By virtue of who we select and the way we run the program, this is a program where people are achievers and looking to affect change. It is globally focused, so make sure in your application you let us know about your global aspirations and experiences. And then, of course, getting an understanding from you, and it's essential that you're flexible, that you're organized, that you can handle taking on a program of this nature in 15 months, as well as doing your job well and attending to your family or outside obligations. Okay. I failed to kind of put in, there was another slide that I had but we have priority deadlines, and the last one that is coming up is August 8th, so on Monday. So for those of you, if you haven't started, to get going, or if you have started your application, to finish it up quickly. These priority deadlines are great because we usually give decisions usually within a week. It's usually a fast process. As I mentioned, we're at the stage right now in the cycle. We're getting decisions to people so that we can get started with all of the logistics of enrolling you in the program and getting started for March 26th. So there's plenty of time to do it, but we need to work quickly. So for December 8th is the next priority deadline. As I mentioned, we will get back to you usually very, very quickly and allow you to get going with the financial aid process so that you have the information that you need to make a decision. So with that, I'll stop now. I thank you very much for your time. I have just a few minutes here to answer a few questions. And so I welcome my colleague Bryce back. What might we have, Bryce?
Oh, awesome. So a couple of the questions that were in here you answered with your very detailed presentation.
Mhm.
But I do have a couple of questions on the deferral process and the priority deadline.
Yeah.
So starting with what is the benefit of applying for the priority deadline rather than the regular deadline?
Yeah, I think that the benefit for the priority deadline is one is we promise and we do deliver on getting decisions really quickly to people. We're all kind of geared up. My calendar is cleared, others in terms of getting the interview scheduled for people. So we are rolling admissions. We accept people throughout. We will accept applications up into early February. But as one could imagine, getting an acceptance in early February and putting your life together to start a 15-month program in the following 3 weeks can be tough. But the advantage is that the speed with which we provide decisions. The other thing that's really helpful is I think it helps people with their letters of recommendation. Those are often where people are very, very happy to provide support for a candidate, but then always need to be nudged, bugged by some people to get it out. So by saying, hey, I have to have this in by December 8th, this can be a very helpful motivator for letters of recommendation to get in.
Thank you. Next question is, if I'm accepted for, say, the fall entry, but need to defer to the spring, is that acceptable? And is there a cost to defer?
Sure. So we have one intake for IE Brown, and that is in the spring. It's usually in March. So for this next one, it will be the very, very beginning of March of 2026. We're evaluating people for this next cohort. That's where we're placing priority. If you're someone who is very interested in IE Brown, but you don't anticipate starting in March of 26, there's a lot less urgency for you to get your decisions in now. So the you may apply for right now. I just tell you that we wouldn't be putting the priority on it as we handle the people who are becoming for this next cohort. Financial aid changes each year. It's generally the same, the packages that we offer, how we evaluate people. So if you're someone that thinks you're going to start, but then decide or life circumstances come around that you need to defer to the next year, we will usually happily do that. Some people decide to enroll, but just say, I'm going to enroll, make the deposit, enroll for the next year. But what we would require would be is for people to go through the financial aid process again, if you were actually looking for the March 2027 start.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And that looks like all of our questions for this afternoon.
Great. Well, thanks, Bryce, for your time. Thank you all for attending. On the website, the contact information, professional at Brown, and I can't remember what the IE one is, but a pretty simple one. It's a relatively small program. I know all of the people, the students in the program personally. It's what makes it really a lot of fun and a lot of value there. So if IE Brown is right for you, or if you have more questions, please reach out. We'll be happy to assist you in this journey. Thanks.